Hi, I'm April. I am a singer-songwriter and music teacher, and today we're going to be talking about how to teach songwriting to kids. There are a ton of different ways that you can go about teaching songwriting to kids, but these are the things that have worked best for me and with my students, so hopefully they work for you as well. When I write a song with a new student, the very first thing I like to start with is outlining. Outlining is really useful, especially for really shy kids or kids who come into the lesson and don't really want to talk about themselves or don't know what to write about or tend to get really stuck halfway through a song. Songwriting can feel really intimidating, especially for a kid who's never written a song before or a kid who just doesn't typically write in front of adults. So the first thing I like to do is ask them really simple questions. What is your favorite fruit? What's your favorite holiday? If you were a Disney character, which one would you be? From here, that kid is definitely going to have an answer for you for at least one of these crazy questions. And you'll be able to find a way to work that into whatever it is that you want to write about. So for instance, if they love Halloween, we're gonna write a really awesome spooky song about Halloween. Or if their favorite class in school is science, we're gonna write an awesome song about a volcano. This is an awesome place to start because so many kids are under this impression that music has to be about really grown-up things, like relationships or breakups. Most kids really haven't experienced that unless they're a little bit older. So you want to get across to them early that songs don't necessarily have to be about those things. A song that I really like to show my students is Harry Nilsson's My Good Old Desk. It's just an awesome song about a desk. I think this is a great example because it just shows that you can write a song about anything. The best place to start is often with something that feels really silly. It's going to be much easier to talk about things like rhyme scheme and song form and creating chords if you're writing a song that doesn't have a lot of emotional weight to it. So start your first lesson by writing a song about a panda that escaped from the zoo, or a pair of shoes that gained sentience. From there, create your main idea, so whatever it is that you're trying to say in your song. You can describe this as just a summary of what your song is about, or you can describe it as the moral of the story. Maybe your main idea is that puppies are really cute, or maybe your main idea is that you really, really love your mom. No matter what your student chooses, go with them in that direction. This is the first step that's really going to build that beautiful foundational trust in your lessons. Once you've chosen your main idea, you can start building a story. So create characters, figure out a plot, come up with some sort of crazy thing that happens. And as you're going, go ahead and explain to them that the chorus is the part where we're going to tell our main idea, and that that's going to repeat a couple times. And explain to them that the verses are where we're going to tell our story. So ask them about the conflict. Ask them what happens that makes everybody gasp. You can even use this opportunity to talk about things like sense description. Would that beautiful ball gown you're wearing as a Disney princess be kind of itchy? What does your favorite fruit smell like? There's so much room to play here, so just have fun and really enjoy the process of creating lyrics with your student. The more often you do these kinds of exercises and really build things from a small idea into something bigger, the more your student is going to want to open up to you, and you will start writing things that maybe are a little more intense. So go at their speed and really listen to what it is that they have to say. In my songwriting lessons, I always like to include a little bit of voice and a little bit of a harmonic instrument. You can choose any harmonic instrument that you like, but I personally like to start with the piano or the ukulele because they're the easiest to pick up on the first day. If your student is really into music that's heavy on production, you can even learn how to play the piano through a DAW. This will give them the opportunity to understand how the piano works, but it'll also let them feel really cool by creating music with their computer. Teaching your students a harmonic instrument is awesome because it's going to empower them to practice when you're not around. It'll give even really skeptical parents some tangible evidence that what you're doing in your lessons is helping their child. And most importantly, it'll make your student feel awesome about themselves. Do you remember the first time you ever wrote your own song and played along with it? That's a huge deal, and it feels so exciting to be able to just go up to your room and start writing. You don't have to do anything super complex right off the bat, and in fact, I would start by just plunking out notes and seeing how they sound. See if you can figure out how to play the melody you just sang. From there, many of your students will be able to pick up all of the chords in C major within the first couple of lessons. If you're able to just teach them this shape, they're going to be able to figure out how to move that shape around the piano and create some awesome songs with root position chords in C major. If your student is too young or their hands are too small, start with thirds. It's a lot easier to play, and they'll start to learn all of the names of the notes and the names of the chords, and eventually they'll be able to add the fifth into all of those chords. If your student is learning the ukulele, you can start by teaching them the A string, and just all of the notes that have dots on them. That way they can start improvising melodies right away. You can also start with chords that are just one finger. Once they feel pretty comfortable with C, A minor, and C7, you can start adding those two-finger chords, like F or A. After that, use everything you've got and start building up slowly until they can play the D, the G, or even the E minor. The point here isn't to make sure that they are perfect at the instrument they're playing, but instead, the point is to build on that foundational knowledge a little more from week to week. That way they can always look back on the songs they've already written and recognize how much they've grown in their playing. And being able to write with an instrument at all, even if it's something really simple, is going to get them into the habit of wanting to practice and play their instrument, and wanting to grow as a musician. As for incorporating voice in lessons, singing in front of new people is terrifying for most adults. So a lot of kids are going to feel absolutely petrified just by the idea of singing in front of you. And that's okay. Make it clear to them right off the bat that this is about experimenting and that you're going to make mistakes when you sing too. I like to sing badly in front of my students. Sometimes. So for those kids who take things really seriously and don't want to get really silly with you, break singing down into pieces. I like to start lessons with vocal warm-ups because, first of all, it's going to get them into the habit of doing warm-ups before they sing, which is a really good thing. But secondly, it's a really routine, really mundane thing. Your kids are going to stop thinking of them as a big deal, and thus they're going to stop thinking of singing in front of you as a big deal. For most kids, I sing along with them during vocal warm-ups for the first bunch of lessons. Some kids will tell you to stop on that first lesson, and some kids are going to want you to sing along with them for a really long time. But it's really important that you trust your student with the pace that they need to go at, because it's going to allow them to trust you back. Because they'll know that you take their feelings and their boundaries seriously. So go ahead and tell them, hey, I think you can try to sing this by yourself today. But if they say no, that's okay too. Continue singing with them until they feel comfortable enough to take off those training wheels. You will have some songwriting students who just sing a melody, and it's great, and you can just record that or write it down, and that's their melody. But you'll also have some kids who are terrified to come up with a melody. Super shy or analytical kids are gonna need a bit of a push. So there are a few ways that I like to handle this. The first way is to play a game, like Leapfrog. All you have to do is teach your student about steps, skips, and jumps. And then take turns deciding what note you're gonna do next. So if I start with a C, I can then say, skip. And then they get to decide whether they want to play or. From there, it's going to be their choice whether you are going to then play a step, a skip, or a jump. You can keep going with this game or others that are similar to it until you find a melody that you both really like. And from there, you can just add chords or add words to it. Another thing you can try is coming up with a chord progression. And then figuring out exactly what notes are in those given chords. So my first chord was a C, so I get to choose either a C, an E, or a G. And then all I do is I write out those notes with some space in between them, and let my students choose how they want to get from one note to the next. So if they choose an E, and for that F chord, they chose an A, My melody is going to start as ah, ah, which might sound a little bit funky on its own, but since you have the entire duration of that C chord to make this change in the melody, you get to figure out a road between those two chords. So for instance, I could add an F and a G in between, and then that creates a really nice little line in my melody. And I can sing ba-da-da-ba, which is a really beautiful melody to start with. If your students aren't really into those melody exercises, you can practice improv. Improv is so much fun, and it's a great skill to have. So what you can do is just hold down a chord, and then let your student improvise along with it. When your song is finished, don't be afraid to tweak stuff. Make sure that you build editing into the process of songwriting, because then it's going to make sure that your kids don't just throw out all of their good work. Make sure that they feel really proud of everything they've accomplished in this song, and let them make those changes if they feel like they want to make some changes. Finishing the writing process is also an awesome opportunity to start adding cool stuff. For instance, you can record it into a DAW and add some software instruments. You can add some cool harmonies or figure out what the bass line would sound like, or even change the order of all of the sections. Show your students that songwriting doesn't have to be a static thing, that it can be ever evolving and growing. When you've worked on a song for a while and it feels really finished, take this opportunity to celebrate. You can have a concert or a recital for their friends and family, or you could record a video of them playing through it. Think of these things as final projects that bookend the songwriting process. And be sure to celebrate all of those wonderful accomplishments before moving on to something new. Lastly, and perhaps most importantly, is just to get to know your kids. Songwriting lessons can feel like therapy for a lot of kids. Many kids don't get the opportunity in their day-to-day lives to really speak what's on their mind and just be purely creative. So the best thing you can do is to create a judgment-free environment where they're able to really speak their minds and create what they feel like they need to create. Each student that you have is going to be so different from the last that you can never just have one cookie-cutter way to teach songwriting. So part of your job is going to be adapting to whatever that child's needs are. And you're gonna have to do some improvising. So in that first lesson, figure out what kind of music your student likes, because that's going to be the basis of the things that you start to write together. If your student really loves Disney princesses, you can start by working on plot development, or creating situations for characters they already love. If they're really into pop music, create some awesome chord progressions and work on things like song form. If it's rap or hip hop, talk about things like rhyme scheme and meter and production. 80s hair metal? Guitar riffs. There is always going to be something really helpful for that kid in that moment. So just be open to whatever it is that they want to learn, or that they need to learn to be able to accomplish the things they want to accomplish. You'll always have new things to talk about and explore if your student is leading from a place of excitement and curiosity. So keep it low pressure, keep it fun, and be as kind and accepting as you can be. Because in my experience, watching your students grow as songwriters and musicians and as people is the greatest feeling in the whole world. And with all that said, I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, be sure to let me know in the comments below, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and ring that little bell to be notified the next time I post.